Hey, welcome to All Things Social Security. You're about to see a question from a live viewer and my response, and it may or may not have an attached additional set of information for you, but you'll see a little invitation to that if that's the case. If what you're looking for is representation and you want us to take a look at your claim, please go to joydisability.com and look in your upper left-hand corner for the link for the free SSD evaluation, and we will take care of that for you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Enjoy the video. Good morning. Happy Sunday. It is the 25th of January. Unbelievable. 2026. All right. So this is a little Sunday Social Security roundup for last week. It's been a little helter-skelter around here lately, but let's get to it. On Monday, that would be January 19th, it was a tip about when you're doing your application, and there is a series of questions with regard to when you stopped work, why? Were you really unable to work before then? Blah, blah, blah. And it gets really confusing, and people have a lot of questions about it always. So I give you some tips there on how we look at those different pieces of information and decide how they're going to be answered most accurately and to get the case moving forward in a way that doesn't waste extra time. Sometimes if it's answered in a certain way that is never going to harm you or hurt you or your onset, it will create the need for additional documentation until they can clear up that it wouldn't help you or harm you. So we try to avoid that by being super clear, picking certain dates. Anything that's needing of an explanation would just go in remarks. But that one was called, if I could find it, application tip, how to answer A, when work stopped, B, when unable to work, C, when you last worked. All three different interesting ways of what seems to be the same question, but really is not. 19th. On 20th. Oh, another tip. This is when you're appealing or whether to appeal, when you want to appeal, consider appealing. If the SSA ignores an SSI claimant's piece of paper that their landlord, which could be a parent, could be a friend, whoever you're living with, where you're unable to pay the rent because you're not working and you're disabled, you shouldn't be having the 1/3 reduction off of your SSI rate once you win, because either prospectively or a little, a few months back, because you had this verbal and or written arrangement. And if you had it verbal, you would put it on paper. Both of you would sign saying, no, she's renting from me. She just couldn't pay it. So I was loaning her, the shelter until she gets back on her feet. Either she recovers and goes to work, or she wins a disability, or she wins a lottery, whatever. An unconditional bona fide loan for rent. And I do find that it gets ignored. I guess that you don't expect anyone to be helping. It's something you really got to push for, though, I think, and present your paperwork because, and I know I said in here, I'm going to find the palms where I think it says, hey, if they say this and there's nothing to contradict it and they have a signature from the landlord, you have to accept it. I'm going to try to find that. I believe that exists. I can't say 100% because I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I'm just thinking back. I mean, we don't represent on this kind of stuff, guys, because it's not something that the SSA allows us to often get paid for. So if it's outside the scope of our pretty robust pro bono stuff, and most SSD lawyers do pro bono whether they want to or not, because it's almost the nature of the beast. That's why a lot of people are kind of hanging out in the cold with that. And maybe the SSA, some people know it and are like, we don't have to change it because they got no help. They're just going to roll over and take it. And I don't think you should roll over and take it. Not if you are under a loan arrangement or you prospectively go into one. That's the same is true when you're paying rent after you win. If they don't change that 1/3 reduced rate to the full blown going forward, at least, because maybe you didn't have a loan arrangement in the past, but now that you've prevailed, you have a loan arrangement. I mean, a rental arrangement now for every month that you're paying. And I think it's to your best interest to make sure that happens. It's going to be more money in your pocket for which you can pay that rent. Okay, so that was, what did we say? Tuesday the 20th. This was Wednesday. Oh, yeah, another tip about how one should think about their mental health claim. It was a discussion with somebody who was denied on their mental health claim and wanted to just maybe get some tips about what to do now. And we go over a few things. They're pretty general, but, sometimes a strictly mental health claim, particularly for young people, is, well, even older people, it's strictly mental health. It's going to be a steep mountain to climb. And you have to consider all the bases on which the judge found that you were not disabled from all jobs. Most, perhaps, but not all. Um, so it's just worth, I don't know, kind of taking a look, see. What do we have next? On the 22nd, these are all out of order, sorry. That was the replay of the Wednesday live stream, because in addition to our 12 o'clock on Wednesday, we had a 1 p.m. weekly Q&A about all things Social Security live stream. And you are all welcome to join. I hope you come next week. That replay of that with all of the pauses and scrollings to get to the next question cut out of it came out on the 22nd, so that must have been Thursday. There was no Friday for law review, my apologies. And on Saturday, this was, this is for people who are retiring and you have a disabled adult child that you could prove was disabled before age 22. Maybe they've even been on SSI that whole time. Either way, a lot of times retired people forget to file for DAC for their child when they retire, when they start collecting retirement. And there was an instance here where it had been several years, and I think the person wanted to know if it could go. I don't think they asked about it going retro. I think the question was, can we file now? And of course, yeah, you're collecting. He's DAC, or you're going to prove he's DAC, and then he will get that portion of your a percentage amount based on your total amount that you receive for retirement. It doesn't come off your retirement. It doesn't reduce yours in any way. It's just an added bonus that can go to your child. Definitely don't forget it, because it's not going to go retroactive back. So they lost probably several years of back benefits for that, all those months and years for the child. But hopefully now with this video, this was in response to a comment on the, it might have been like people put comments about their questions on any video comment board, and that's fine because I go through them all. It might not be that day, but usually within a number of days, I get through them. So that is where I found this, and I thought that's really worth putting out there, because we're all heading towards retirement, parents who are not disabled. And if you have a disabled child from childhood that is clearly not able to hold down any job full-time, any kind of job with substantial activity, it's definitely worth taking a look into. And forgetting it at retirement is kind of devastating, because it's a lot of money that might have gone to them. They can also get Medicare that way, and they don't have to lose Medicaid if they were otherwise eligible. So definitely important. It was kind of heartbreaking to me when I read it too. All right, so that was Saturday. All right, so big storm, guys. I know there's issues all over the country. I'm in the Northeast, so it is cold. But anyway, I don't mind the snow since I don't have to go out in it. We did all of our running around beforehand, prepping and such. All right, you guys have a great week. Be safe if you're in the snowstorm. Be safer, and hopefully I'll see you noon tomorrow for the 12 o'clock daily, and certainly Wednesday live stream. The more the merrier, guys. All right, I'll chat with you later. Bye-bye. It's still Sunday. Did you miss last week's Social Security roundup? Not this week that you just heard, but the one prior to that, and want to catch up? I'm attaching it now. Have a great day. Bye. Morning. It is Sunday, January 18th. Can you believe we're already halfway through the first month of 2026? This is Sunday, so it's Sunday Social Security Roundup for the past week of which videos came out during the day. So let's hop to it. We had January 12th, which my little notes here say, yeah, this is a little ditty for representative payees. And the fact that, no, you best not collect a fee for being the representative payee of one of your loved ones. Not good. If you're doing it, I suggest you stop, because you could find yourself in a little bind there. It is not permitted, period. If you're an institutional representative payee that has already been approved by the SSA to be a company that does this, then that's a different story. And I'm sure you have to have a lot of requirements. I wouldn't be surprised if you had to have liability insurance, maybe bonding. I don't know, but certainly something because, when we have other people's money, it can be tempting for some people to, get sticky fingers with it. So they just want to make sure everything is kosher with that regard. It's funny because I look at you guys can't see this. I think they give a percentage of likes versus, I guess it's not really versus not, but when it's not 100%, I mean, YouTube kind of already knows that. But when I saw the number, I'm like, I wonder if a lot of people are actually charging their brother or their grandpa or their child for the chore of holding their money and paying the bills. I don't know, but guys, you can't do it. So if you don't want to be a representative payee unless you get paid, I suggest you have the SSA pick them one of the SSA representative payees so you don't get yourself in trouble. But it's funny how I see there's I also know that there's some trolls that go around and click dislike on things just to try to screw up with people's numbers. YouTube also knows that they do this, so it's not really a big deal, but I just thought it was kind of funny. All right, the next day, that would be Tuesday, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I just skipped a day. Tuesday the 13th was, oh yeah, this was the full video of the strategy benefits of a composite job for winning your claim. That was a three-parter that I merged into one for people who like to watch it all at once. Something that's really overlooked a lot. And I'm going to be doing more delving into more strategies with regard to it to make sure that an ALJ is not, or, an underling is not refraining from categorizing as a composite job when he should be, because it does complicate things on their side. And I'd like to know, I kind of like to know some of the policies within the unspoken policies, if they're supposed to avoid them, if at all, if they can, when they can't. I don't know if I'll actually find the verbiage on this because I don't actually publish a lot of this stuff. A lot of the stuff we know is from experience, and some of the best information you get is anecdotally from other representatives and lawyers. So I know people always say, oh, it's anecdotal, it doesn't count. Really? That's how the world used to always fly, a few hundred years ago, including medicine. So everything starts anecdotally, but sometimes that's all you've got. So when you know how to weed out falseness, it's not too bad. So January 14th was a different one. So that would be Wednesday. Oh, it was in response to a question. Can a 6-year-old get a CDR? Would a 6-year-old get a CDR? And in that one, I brought up the example of how prosthetics went from being severely disabling or pre-prosthetics or early prosthetics to now people with a prosthetic and an amputated leg, for instance, may very well get CDR'd and be improved and be found able to go to work. Although I will say that most amputees I know want to go back to work. They want that prosthetic to work, and they're not trying to be on SSD for longer than they should be. So, okay, the 15th, this was the replay. Oh, because Wednesday we had our 1 p.m. live stream Q&A, all things Social Security that we have every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please be there and join next time for any of your questions on Social Security. That came out. We did that Wednesday live, and then Thursday, we had the replay. So that came out Thursday. The old original is still up there too. The one that's got all the pauses and scrollings and things like that. That's also available. And I think it's up in the live section or something. But we like to do the replay so that all the good 30, sometimes more minutes is carved out of it. That would be kind of lag time. So that people watching the replay don't have to sit through that. I just think it's worse when you're sitting through a replay to have to watch that. Friday for a law review. Oops. It looks like it never went out, and I'm looking at it, but I don't think it went out. You will put that out Monday. Sorry about that. Or maybe skip it to next Friday. I'll tell you what it's about, though. An Ohio couple, Bonnie and Clyde, if you will. It included fake disability and defrauding welfare housing. Gee, imagine that. As well as Social Security disability from lots of monies. So that's in Ohio. And then Saturday the 17th was a little ditty about consultative examination. And when your consultative examiner asks you if they do, they're not all going to do this. Some will just try to test you on it. Ask you if you suffer from weakness. You might want to know in advance what that is. So if that happens, you can answer accurately. You might not recognize something as weakness that could very well be weakness. I say that they might not ask you, but if they say, so, what happens? What's wrong? Definitely bring up weakness. If it's true. And it would therefore be in all those records that the CE examiner isn't going to see. And the reason why I suggest that is because a lot of times denial letters will say, we see that you have impairments that are, significant, but you can move your limbs about. Woohoo. And I hang out with the birds too much. You don't have weakness. Now they're saying that because they don't see it in the record. So maybe you don't have it in your record. But if you do have musculoskeletal issues, leg, back, make sure to figure out whether you feel that you have weak legs, and then have your doctor, not only would you mention it to the consultative examiner, he says, so what are your symptoms? I would throw in the word weakness if you have it, because it is a word that they will say, you don't seem to have significant weakness in the denial letter, that canned letter. So it's definitely a canned blurb that they shoot out when they think when they think they can do that. So you might be able to add a crumb in the opposite direction by doing that. And think of all the kinds of words you might attribute to how your legs are it's usually your legs. Sometimes it's your arms or your hands. That might mean the same thing. Fatigue. Is it the same? It might not be exactly the same, but it seems reasonable that there might be a little interplay there. So just give it some thought before you go. And also, separately and aside, if that does happen to you and you do suffer that, be sure to tell your doctors, because then you might get the tests that will show that there's a little something. If nothing else, you've got your historical complaints throughout the record of how you get weakness after very little activity, perhaps. Maybe your legs feel a little, and you got to go rest them to get that, I don't know, mitochondria in there backing up. I don't know. Anywho, so that was our week, guys. It's been super, super busy. We're kind of in hearing mode for the next couple months. So we're just trying to keep it all together. I look forward to hopefully seeing as many of you as possible on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, please come back and visit the 12 o'clock regular recorded videos that come out every day. And I hope you have a great week. Have a great Sunday. Finish it up, and a safe and healthy rest of your week. God bless.